Welcome to the webinar, everyone. Another Wednesday, another opportunity to learn a little bit more about the foods we eat, the things we drink, and more about our diet and lifestyle and those decisions that we make on a daily basis that affect our overall health. Today is a discussion on one of those decisions, and it's understanding energy drinks, what they do, what the benefits they bring, and what potential downsides are. So, the interesting thing about energy drinks is they are somewhat of a newer thing. They're not really that old, but the aspect of how they have evolved and the effect that they have on us and our daily lives is definitely something that we need a better understanding of, especially when you see the demographics with regard to who uses them and how often and understanding as parents and caregivers the effect that they can have on our children. For the most part, energy drinks are made up the same way. What they do is they are part of a $20 billion market, and they're made up of similar ingredients that have similar effects. But we're starting to push these things to an extreme. But if you think energy drinks are going away, all you have to do is continuously look at that green number, because $20 billion and growing annually, energy drinks are going to continue to evolve. And unfortunately, what they're going to do is keep pushing the envelope on the extreme nature of what they do. These things first appeared in Europe and Asia in the 1960s. So like I said, they're really not that old. We're pushing on 60 years old here. Coffee's been around a lot longer than that, obviously. But the idea behind them evolved in the United States a little bit later. See, in the 60s, we had it in Asia. In the United States, it took until 1985, and we got Jolt. And Jolt Cola was born, and it was basically these commercials. If you remember these ads when they first came out, shock yourself, stay awake, all of these things, and they were an instant hit. Americans loved them, and because Americans were going to buy it, obviously there were a lot more people that came online with the various energy drinks and what they brought about. But for the most part, they're all made the same way. It is a combination of caffeine and sugar. That's your two main ingredients. Yes, there's some companies that'll focus more on the B complex vitamins. They'll use artificial sweeteners as opposed to real sweetener, and a lot of reasons behind that are more addictive related than anything else, or to try to keep the calories down or things of that nature. But for the most part, that's really what we're dealing with. We're dealing with caffeine, and we're dealing with sugar, and that's why we have the problems that we have. So, did you know? One of the interesting things most people don't even appreciate or understand, that caffeine itself has actually been linked to increasing your blood sugar level. So you need to be very careful if you're diabetic and you're going to do one of these energy drinks, even one of the sugar-free energy drinks, because the caffeine itself can have a negative impact on your blood sugar level. And obviously, most people don't even appreciate or understand when you couple sugar and you couple caffeine together, the amount of impact it can have on your blood sugar levels, it can be insurmountable. So energy drinks all work the same way. Basically, you start out, you're ready to go, you want to accomplish something, and you're ready to get going, and you take that energy drink and you face the mountain, and here you go. Unfortunately, you fall off the cliff. See, what most people don't appreciate or understand, that when you consume high levels of caffeine and high levels of sugar, there is a point at which those things wear off. And when the effect wears off, the crash is real. It really is one of those opportunities that you have to either completely fall way off the cliff, or what most people do is they grab another energy drink to basically start the yo-yo cycle. You go up really fast, you coming down really hard, you take it again. And this should sound familiar because it's very much like a drug addiction. And some of that, appears to be somewhat of the intent, is to get people to be addicted to these drinks. But that is the effect, is you do fall off the cliff. Now, the reason why that's important, and the reason why I wanted to show that to people, is because what the target market is for these energy drinks. See, when they were launched, they were focused on the teenagers, the young adults, the people in this world that don't care about what their health is today, because They don't want to miss anything. When you actually look at the target market, though, you see things like this. Nobody ever wishes they'd slept more during college. That was actually a Red Bull ad run in colleges and universities across the United States. Literally telling our college age kids, and I got two now in college at the University of Arkansas, basically these types of ads targeted directly at my children. Nobody ever wishes they had slept more during college. Well, who cares what the long-term residual effects are on lack of sleep or insomnia or all the other issues associated with it? I mean, we don't care. All we care about is, can we sell more of these things? 66% of all energy drinks are consumed by people ages 13 to 35. So this is the demographic. This is the wheelhouse of the energy drink market. These are where all of the ads are going to be focused. This is the demographic that they want to sell to. But it actually gets a little bit worse when you actually dig down into it. Because, see, 50% of all of the drinks are consumed by people under the age of 25. So now you know why there was all these college ads. 66% 35 and under, but when you kind of do the math, 25 to 35 really only represents roughly about 15%. Really, 50% of the buying market for these energy drinks is 25 and under. And then you look at college students, they represent 30% of the consumption. So in other words, college students sitting out there right now consume these things every day. 30% of college students are consuming an energy drink every single day they're in college. Obviously why you see those ads that you did. But then when you look at our teenagers, teens 12 to 17 use energy drinks daily 33% of the time. So 1 in 3 teenagers, 1 in 3 high school and middle school students in this country are drinking an energy drink every single day. So this is part of the contribution to the sugar epidemic that we have in this country, especially the number of servings that our kids are consuming on a daily basis. But this is the target market. Parents, if you don't understand energy drinks, if you don't know how they work, if you don't know the effects of them or the downsides or the potential dangers or side effects, you need to, because your kids are using these products. So here are some of the side effects. They are and include cardiac arrest, headaches, insomnia, type 2 diabetes, mainly related to all the sugar that's in them, drug interactions. So yes, they will counteract with drugs or prescription medications that your kids are on. Addiction, jitters, vomiting, nervousness, and allergic reactions. All of these things are side effects of energy drinks. But the most important thing to remember is we are actually contributing to the sleep epidemic in this country by continued consumption of these things. In fact, we had, to the Poison Control Center, we had a little over 5,000 calls between 2010 and 2013 related to energy drinks. More than 40% of them involved children. That's right. We had more than 40% of the calls on energy drinks, or roughly a little over 2,000 parents that were calling the Poison Control Center because their child consumed too much of a beverage that was okay for them to buy in any store that they walked into. See, because most people don't appreciate or understand that, a little bit of something isn't necessarily going to be harmful, but a lot of that thing could be very dangerous. And it could be that your child has an inability to uptake that much sugar and or caffeine, or has just been consuming it all day long and didn't even think about it. And then the effect is real. In fact, if we look at the number of emergency room visits for consuming energy drinks, that's right, people rushed to the emergency room between 2007 and 2011, went from 10,000, just over 10,000 to almost 21,000. That is an increase of 279% in adults over 40. 279% increase in adults over 40. So if you happen to be over 40 years old and you think energy drinks, no big deal, you need to know that the way that these things are now being formulated and the consumption that is being made of them is actually resulting in a lot of emergency room visits. So unless you want to be speeding down the road in the back of an ambulance because you decided that energy drink was something that you needed, you might want to consider reading the label and understanding what's in the one that you like. Here's the one that's scary, though. 19% of those college students, so remember 50% of our college students are basically consuming one of these on a regular basis. 30% consume them every single day. Of those college students, 19% have reported having heart palpitations after consumption of an energy drink. So, that old marketing ad of no one wished they slept more during college. Well, the danger side of not doing so is pretty evident here. Caffeine. You have to understand something about caffeine, because caffeine can be a good thing, but too much of a good thing can always be a bad thing. So, let's look at it from a very easy perspective, something that you should understand. So, something as a parent, guardian, or something, or someone who really does have the loved ones that they want to watch out for. This is something that you should really keep in mind. And this is just a guide. This doesn't mean this is the same for everybody. I mean, I happen to have ADHD, so as a result, caffeine is basically like a sleep aid for me. If I drink it, I'll go to sleep. It has the opposite effect for somebody like me. Others have an extreme sensitivity to caffeine, which means if they drink just as little as 100 milligrams, they could be affected for the rest of the day. But generally speaking, 100 milligrams of caffeine on a daily basis is considered low. 300 is moderate. That's basically one medium Starbucks coffee for the most part. Once you get to 500 milligrams in a day, you've started to get to that high range. Now all of a sudden it's affecting you, and you could be dealing with the crash effect. If you get above 600, you're in the extreme area. You're in the danger zone. You need to make sure that you understand from a caffeine milligram perspective what your kids are consuming, how much they're consuming, and where it's coming from. And I'm talking about all sources of caffeine here, not just energy drinks. I'm talking about sodas and teas and everything else as well. This is something that you need to keep as a guide. Insomnia. This is a real issue. We have studies that show that over 80% of our teenagers in this country get 2 hours less sleep per night. This is 80% of our teenagers get 2 hours less sleep per night than they need for proper development. Remember, teenagers, they still have a developing brain and developing bodies, and they're developing their metabolism for the better part of the rest of their life. And insomnia or lack of sleep can contribute to all kinds of health issues, as well as weight issues and mood issues. I mean, who's never met a moody teenager before? I mean, come on. The issue is insomnia is a real thing, and these caffeine and sugar-laden drinks are just that. I mean, there is 40% of the population right now, and I want to make sure everyone hears me on this one. There is 40% of the population genetically that are what we can call a slow metabolizer of caffeine. What that means is if you have caffeine in any amount after 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you will not be going to bed until 11 or 12 o'clock at night, because your brain and your body just cannot shut down. A lot of these kids are having energy drinks at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening and then can't sleep. And then the next day they're expected to perform or to take a test or whatever. So guess what happens? When they start falling asleep because they start getting tired, they have another energy drink to basically give them their energy to push through. That then creates this unbelievable cycle of the energy drink is the only way that they're staying awake, but their body is never getting to shut down. So understand that this is a real danger. The sugar aspect should be self-explanatory. I mean, it really should. I mean, unfortunately, our average child in this country is now consuming roughly 30 servings of sugar per day. They're supposed to have 6, according to the American Heart Association, but the average child is now averaging a little over 30. That's right, 5 times the amount that they're supposed to. That's why we've had such a spike in type 2 diabetes. And in fact, try to find what we used to call type 2 diabetes anywhere. See, back in the day, we used to call type 2 diabetes adult onset diabetes. But when you have over a 200,000 case increase between 2010 and 2015 in children of type 2 diabetes, you drop the adult onset and you just call it type 2. See, when I talked earlier about the addiction, you need to understand something about sugar. This is something a lot of people don't want to talk about. And in fact, we've done an entire Wednesday Lunch and Learn on sugar itself. and how it is the epidemic that is causing our eating disorders and everything else that we have, as well as our weight issue and why 74% of our population is overweight. But when you look at an MRI scan of somebody who has consumed cocaine and somebody that has consumed sugar, you notice that it basically lights up the same areas of the brain. You have that same response, that same addictive quality. We have an addiction to sugar. All of us, every single American, because it's in everything that we consume, but especially in energy drinks. In fact, when you actually look at it right here, you can kind of see where and how many servings are in each one of these energy drinks, and these are some of the most popular ones. And some of these, it's actually deceiving because not only do they use sugar, but then to heighten the sweetness, they also use artificial sweeteners as well. Now, why would anyone use real sugar and an artificial sweetener in the same beverage? Well, simple. The more sweet or the higher the sweetness, the more addictive quality it has. So if they only want so much sugar, but yet they need the sweetness up, they'll use other sugars and other sweeteners and other artificial sweeteners to basically get the addictive quality up. But as you can see, these things are massively loaded with servings of sugar. And like I said, no child should have more than 6 in a day, and almost every single one of these has 6 or more in every single one of them. IdeaLife, we've created 2 energy drinks that have no sugar. At IdeaLife, we have things called purposeful product development. And the reason why we design products is so that we can attack an issue that we see in the marketplace. And this is one that, we wanted to provide an alternative so that we could take away this sugar addiction issue that is in so many of these energy drinks. The other thing that you need to understand is that most energy drinks create this, which is the child bouncing off the walls, or the ADHD bunny, or the uncontrolled amount of energy where you're basically running around and you're talking fast and you're doing all these various things right before you hit the crash effect. At IdeaLife, we wanted to change that too, because see, we created those energy products to basically take care of the sugar, but we also wanted to add something else. See, what if you could have a situation where you could have a moderate amount of energy enhancers, mental clarity ingredients, no sugar, and no crash? What if you could do all of those things? Well, that's what we created. What we call it is focused energy. See, no, we don't just give you the energy. We actually give you the mental clarity ingredients to also help you focus. No sugar, no crash, encapsulated caffeine that's time released over a period of time, 4 to 6 hours of energy, none of the downside. And that's what IdeaLife is about, is finding a solution to a problem and attacking it head on so that we can give people a better understanding. So what's your takeaway from today? What should you really have learned? Well, energy drinks can be dangerous. A small amount of caffeine can be a good thing. Too much of a good thing can seriously be a bad thing. And then if you take something as innocuous as caffeine, and then you add to it mountains of sugar and other things, the effect, the long-term residual effect that it can have on your health can almost be insurmountable. It can affect your sleep, it can affect your weight, it can affect your food addictions. You need to understand what you're consuming. And as parents, we need to understand what our kids are consuming, because unfortunately they can walk into any store in the U.S. and buy these things uninhibited in any amount and any quantity that they want. So we need to educate ourselves so we can educate them.